Hello, my name is Opal Singleton. I am the president and CEO of Million Kids. This is a Million Kids Insider Alert. We do these 2 or 3 times a week to keep you informed on the latest technologies and things that are changing in the business of keeping kids safe from predators. So if you have not signed up for it, please go to Insider Alerts and sign up. Right now, we send them out to everybody, but in the near future, they'll be subscription only at no cost, but we want to send them only to those people that really value them. Today, I'm going to talk about CSAM. That is a fancy word for child pornography, if you will. It's child sexual abuse materials. And I wanted to talk about this because I recently visited the Fontana Police Department. And these people over there are my heroes. Many of you that know me know that not only do I deal with real cases, but I'm also kind of a rabid researcher. And it became very apparent that they in the Fontana area were real experts in combating CSAM. And in fact, they have put together a dedicated unit to support the work of ICAC, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I went over and spent some time, and they were our guests on our radio show. That is archived at millionkids.org. It's the AM 590 radio show. So Corporal Brad Guth and myself were talking about just how many challenges we have right now in combating CSAM, and especially during the time of COVID. But it isn't just Fontana. I wanted to give you some quotes. This is a quote from Fresno, from the Sheriff Department up there with Sergeant Chad Stokes. And as you can see, they are also seeing a major increase in this. And they are actually proactively running reverse stings. In other words, in this particular case, there were 34 people that were arrested for trying to have sex with a minor. And they honestly think that's what's going to happen. And this is one way of catching that pedophile. Another way to catch the pedophile is to disrupt or interact with some of those global child pornography rings. Now, here's a quote from, I believe it's Illinois, back east. And as you can see, they are also experiencing a major increase in child sex crimes. They believe that it's connected to COVID and the fact that kids are at home a lot. And it's also a time for kids where they can easily connect up with a stranger. And oftentimes that escalates into a very bad situation. From my perspective, we have really been seeing it since COVID. My first time working with outside of not making presentations was March 12th. And since March 12th of last year, we have seen a major increase in the number of crimes of sex against children and sexual abuse. Excuse me. What you're seeing are more kids online than ever before. And they're on there for longer periods of time. And kids get bored and kids like to play. And they don't always have 100% supervision. We're also seeing kids on there much younger than normal. Kids that normally we would not be giving devices to are now put online for online learning. The problem with that is that I guarantee you put a 6 or 7-year-old child on the internet, they're not going to go back to their bicycle. They want to have fun like everybody else. The problem with that is they don't have adult judgment. And they are very, very good with technology. When I look at these cases of these 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids getting violated by a predator that they've sent out a naked photo or even tried to meet up with, one of the things that you'll see is they just want to please that guy. 7-year-olds want everybody to love them. And they don't want to get the man in trouble, so they don't tell. But they are very good with technology. They will often play with 3 or 4 or 5 apps that a parent never even knows the child is accessing, but they don't know what adult sex is. They don't know what a pedophile is. When somebody wants a picture of their private part, they think it's funny, that it's a joke. It's like bathroom humor to them. Also, one of the things I'll share with you is when societal pressures increase, so does that obsessive compulsive behavior of pedophilia. And it is absolutely running rampant. And especially if they become unemployed or they're spending a lot more time in front of a computer, it's an addictive process, and it will escalate in the level of obsessive compulsive behavior. And we learned recently through a previous insider alert I did that 83% of people who view porn view it on their cell phone. Well, think about that. It's always with them. So if they're having one of these urges to violate a child, it's going to be very handy for them at any given time. On top of it, our laws are changing where we're now holding tech companies responsible for content. You may remember recently that I did an insider alert on Pornhub, where literally 80% of their entire inventory, nearly 10 million videos, had to be taken down because it turned out to be our kids submitting their photo thinking they're going to make money by doing amateur pornography. So we've put in these laws that say they are responsible for their content. By the way, that is the same reason they give you for taking you off their site, because they'll tell you, well, I don't want your content on my site. So it's a fascinating time. But the really good news is that large-scale tech companies are developing scraper software, investigative tools, network investigative tools, and bots, where they can comb through their inventory of posts and see if they might have, using an algorithm, an image of someone that's naked or being violated under the age of 18. And they are reporting a lot more. Now, only the biggest ones have been able to do this right now. So we're not even close to what's really out on the internet, but we are making progress. I want to share with you a little bit how child pornography works and how you go about getting the bad guy. In this case, what you'll often see, I did one recently on Charles Orange and the big takedown. I did an insider alert on the takedown of the casting call, Operation Casting Call, and Operation Black Wrist. And in those cases, it involved almost all of these law enforcement agencies. What will happen is they'll discover a dark web ring. And when they do, they begin to sort through all the IP addresses and they find out where the hosting is and who's the administrator. In that one case, the site was hosted in Bulgaria, but it was administered out of Australia. But the violations and the photos of the violated children came out of Thailand, and the people that were viewing it were from Longview, Texas. And so it involves a vast amount of law enforcement to do it. So what are child sexual abuse materials and how do they get our kids' photo? Well, it covers a broad range. It can be general sexual abuse of a child and a sexual abuse of a child that is memorialized. In other words, made into a photo is taken, a video is taken. Maybe there's a live streaming event where this is taking place with multiple pedophiles. What will happen is pedophiles build these large libraries. Those of you that have heard me talk, they have found 3 of those large libraries out of Europe that each had over 30 million images each. Those are not images. Those are 30 million children who had their image taken while being violated. A lot of the times they will get it through sextortion. When I talk regularly about sextortion, we have a movie coming out this summer that will teach young people all about sextortion. The other one are self-taken photos. These are kids who maybe are with a guy or a girl and they take their own photos. They maybe will do it only of themselves, thinking they're going to do amateur pornography, or maybe they do it in a relationship and one of them breaks up and those are then used against them. And sometimes they're actually hacked and taken off of websites. So you don't ever want your naked photo or half naked or even lightly naked photo on the internet. This is what we call crowdsourcing of pedophilia. These guys never met, even though they look like they're brothers. Okay. They lived all over the United States. They found out that they liked to violate children and then sell those photos. And they had thousands of victims where our young girls thought they were talking to a great looking young guy. They send that photo, and these guys, it was a game to them. They actually used names for each other, and they had thousands of victims, and not one of those kids knew they were talking to 6 different guys. What they'll do is get these photos, and usually it's in the area of the internet that we use, which is called the clear web or surface web. And that's only 4% of the entire internet. And usually what will happen is that they are operating either out of the dark web or out of what we call bulletproof hosting. And once they get a photo of a child in the clear web, they belong to these dark web pedophilia rings, and they will either buy, sell, or trade that photo into the dark web. More and more, as law enforcement penetrates the dark web, they're moving into bulletproof hosting. This is multiple levels of virtual private network, VPN, so that it's very difficult for law enforcement to penetrate them. So they will get the photo, they'll send it off, and then it goes back out to thousands and literally thousands of pedophiles. And that is where the real abuse begins. Here's an example out of Canada that sent these photos all over the world. So you get an idea of how big this is and how many times a photo can be traded. This is why we have to take it down. This is the largest one. They found it last year. It's called Welcome to Video. And as you can see, it had 1 million members that were using Bitcoin and paying for a subscription. So if your child takes a naked photo and shoots it off and it's one of these pedophiles, it easily can be seen by over 1 million people. So why is all this important? Because I want you to understand, number one, not only where naked photos go when you hit send, but how far they go and how people like our Corporal Brad Guth over in Fontana, who has dedicated his life to solving these cases, and they are not easy. Usually he'll get a lead, maybe it'll be a lead from another area where they picked up a pedophile and they've been able to track that IP address over to the area in our area, where he then goes in, does a background check, does undercover work, builds a profile, gets a search warrant, and goes out, and he will confiscate that individual's technology. And they begin to build the case. And anytime they can find information on others that has been shared with, they share that back out so that they can find it to Interpol, to FBI, and it goes out around the world as they begin to take down these large-scale cases. Well, you heard me recently give you a Million Kids Insider alert on a dog named Goose. I had to throw this in because it just makes me grin from ear to ear to think about this. They even gave me a stuffed one, by the way, when I went over there. But what is cool about that is that when Corporal Guth goes out and with a search warrant and they are checking a house, oftentimes these guys hide that all those images on technology that's hard to detect. And by training a dog named Goose, what Goose does is he can sniff out that electronics that other people don't see, and that helps them build the case. So I'm very proud to know the folks over at the Fontana Police Department. They do a tremendous job. Chief Billy Green over there, he's the best of the best, the cream of the crop, and his team is too. I'm so proud of them. This is a specialty. All law enforcement care deeply about kids and doing what they can to help kids. But it takes a special expertise to participate in the taking down of a global child pornography ring. And that is what the folks do over in Fontana, and they allowed me to share that with them. So before I close, I want you to hear this. What can you do to keep your kids or your grandkids safe from predators? Well, talk to them before they ever go on the internet. They need to know how the internet is made. They need to know why someone wants their naked photo and where that naked photo is going to go when you hit send. We are making a movie about that. It's probably be called Seduced, and it'll be out this summer. And I hope you follow us and stay in tune with that. I also want you to talk with them about adult sex. If they have a device to get online, you have to assume that they're going to learn about adult sex, and it's not going to be how you're going to teach them. If they're online, I don't care how good they are, at some point they will meet up with a pedophile or a predator. And if they can get the technology, trust me, these kids can upload, download, and install all kinds of stuff. But if we put them out there without them understanding the world that they're going to have to stand up to, we are not doing them any favors. We need to share with them, if anybody approaches you for any kind of photo, first of all, you shouldn't be talking to people you don't know on the internet. It's no different than in real life, but in real life, you can see that they're ugly and a bad guy. Okay, you can't see that on the internet, but keep that open communication so they will talk to you, and share with them how to report. If you ever see any kind of violation, this is how you report, and you can report it anonymously. If you know that there is a child being abused, even if you don't think they're being photographed, if they're being abused, this is how you report it. It is a national hotline, and you can do it anonymously. Well, folks, this is another Insider Alert. I hope they're helpful for you. If you haven't signed up for them, please do go on and sign up for Insider Alert. And at the same time, share this with everyone you know. Put your arms around your kids and tell them you're proud of them. Look at your spouse and tell them how much they mean to you and that you believe in them. This is Opal Singleton. I'll see you at the next Insider Alert.